Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Bellows Falls Union High School School Board. I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any adjustments to the agenda tonight? June?
I don't see him now, but I would like to move the athletic director / trainer to maybe under number 5, review and approve.
Sure.
And, yeah.
So I'm gonna change it to 6A then, instead of E. Then everything will just bump down.
And then we also, Molly,
Yes,
Priscilla has a change.
yes, Priscilla.
Yes, I'd like to add, and I don't know where you want to add it, you can let me know, the Title I comparability policy, which is a proposed D4 coding. It was approved by the WNASU board last week. It was posted on August 8th. And I circulated copies of it. The only change from the other was just one sentence, so it should be easy to add.
There's important copies.
Sorry, I didn't mention,
I
passed it over to you.
Did I already put policies under 8B, Andy? I don't really have policies on here tonight. Let's just add policies.
Yeah.
So we're gonna add policies between 6 and 7. And it's gonna be D4.
Under 6D, is that what you're looking at?
Sure.
With committees?
Committee.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Sorry. There it is.
Thank you.
Ollie,
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering who's in Zoom land and do we have a quorum? Anyway, how many are we supposed to have?
Tanya is not
2,
going to
3,
make it. I saw
Yeah,
her
I
email.
did.
5, 6, 7. You have 7 here with Pamela.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all that's on there is Pamela?
Pamela is on there, Tara Darrell, who is your, takes your minutes, and Fact TV.
Okay. David?
Where have we got Mike Sullivan?
You just asked.
Mike Sullivan.
Oh, Mike Sullivan, Principal's report. Sorry, Dave.
Okay, I'm just wondering, you don't live in town, do you, Mike?
No, I do not.
If we might move him up somewhat commensurate with the amount of travel that he has ahead of him. Where's your home, 20, Mike?
I live in Hudson, New York.
Oh, my
So,
goodness.
40
You
minutes south
should have been in
but
the.
I know you are.
I certainly understand the rules here, and there is an agenda, and I don't mind waiting.
We should still move you up.
So do you need him as part of your report, or is he
But
just?
I just put him into my report, and then Mike and I again confirmed on Friday that I didn't know if he was going to Zoom or come, and Mike loves it here, so he wanted to come and see us in person, which is great for us. And as I said at the last meeting, I like him here because any questions that you ask me that I don't know, I would go back to Mike, and it just cuts out the middle guy and can get all the questions answered while we see you. So,
Molly, may I propose something?
How about we put the principal's report at 6A and the athletic director is 6B?
Well, I was going to ask if Jim could go at 6B, because it's something I had meant to ask Nicole to try and move Jim up, just because he's got to drive too. So if that is okay with you.
I think
Maybe
Jim
we
was gonna
should
stay
move
for
them all
the,
right up to number 2.
What do you need Jim for something else? Is
Jim
that-
was
Two, we really
gonna stay
don't.
for the subs part and the tax rate part, number 9.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I believe my agenda right now says 6A is principal's report. 6B is the athletic director slash is the trainer here.
No, Ian was going.
This was,
Okay,
I can go after she can be.
okay.
You want to?
That would be nice.
I think it'd be nice to meet her.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's move on to communication and public comments. Anybody on the screen there? Nothing?
Yeah, nobody.
All right, review and approve board minutes for
Molly,
July
can we
25th.
postpone those because they are not able to be found on the
That's
website?
perfectly fine. So we are going to postpone approving July 25th minutes because they are not on the website. Hopefully we can get that straightened out. Or have somebody help us figure out where they are.
Oh, Ricky, can you let Deb write in? Thank you.
So we are going to move on to 6A, which is the principal's report.
Okay, I had Mike on as number one, but if I can go through, the other five are relatively short, and then have Mike then finish off with the bulk of reporting out on our HVAC and any questions. So AEP and Freshman Academy Program evaluation. As part of the evaluation of each of these programs, I plan to review all aspects of these programs. This was asked at the last meeting. Report out to the board and have each program present to the board in the next meeting or two, depending on when it's convenient for them to come in. And that'll give everybody a full round off of each program and be able to ask individual questions to those that run it as well, and hopefully offer an understanding of the importance of each of these programs. So that is my plan for those in the next meeting or two, to have those guys come and present and give you an evaluation of the program and then have them present so you can ask any questions. The next one I had was the athletic director. He will be presenting tonight, so he's here. Update on our generators. The upgrade of our operating system for our generators will be ready for installation by, this is according to them, by September 30th. The work should take a few weeks and then be ready to regularly use our generators. We are in full demand response capability when that happens. And the high school then hopefully we'll go back to saving cost on our electric bill each month. Update on the smoke alarms in the B and C wings. Smoke alarms for the B and C wings have been installed. This means that all four sections of the HVAC have detectors that will automatically shut off the air intake in the case of fire or emergency.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, sir. We kept after that and finally got them. So, and they're going to be, I mean, they're here before the kids got back, which was the important point. Update on the opening of school. One of the main areas of focus as we get ready for another school year is school climate. Though many students and parents believe our school climate is in good shape, we're always going to try and improve. On opening day, administration will address each class as we normally do. However, there will be an added focus on diversity, equity, and generally being kind to each other. And this will happen by the Greater Falls Connection and our own restorative practices person who've taken on this year, Kelly O'Ryan. Last year, it was brought to light that some students may not be reporting incidents, which I'll talk about a little bit later, of harassment and bullying. Our school plan is to address this in our extended advisory homeroom sessions planned on approximately the last Thursday of each month. Again, I think there's 1 month where it's maybe the third one. For each month for 25 minutes, I was asked how long the sessions were. Administration and Restorative Practices program will work together to continually address avenues to improve school climate. And then the HVAC update, Mike, and we talked about Ryan maybe zooming on, but I know Mike can more than adequately address this. They'll give us an overview of where we are right now and take any questions. Mike plans to be at our buildings and grounds, and then here Ryan would zoom in if needed. And again, this will allow for in-depth questions of the project, again, around the cost, the climate control, the need, the type, etc. So.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Again, I'm Mike Sullivan. I'm the engineering. We're building systems engineers. We design, among other things, HVAC systems, power, lighting, plumbing, fire protection. And just a little background or context for the project that you're now considering. We, 2 years, 3 years ago now, it's so long ago, we were hired to do an assessment of the building within the context of COVID preparedness or improvement, again, in the context of COVID. And the report mainly focused on air exchanges, exhaust rates, and outdoor air intake. And one of the things that we noted while we came through and did our inspection was that there were a number of units that were original to the building, built in the early 70s, that were still functioning. And the other big thing that came out of that was there were some functionality issues with some of the controls that controlled exhaust air and outdoor air being introduced to the system. So our report had recommended some upgrades. The school board and building and grounds committee considered some of our recommendations. There was a cost associated with those recommendations at the time, which I believe were around $1.7 million. And then a couple of months later, half a year later, we were asked to come back and now implement what we had proposed. So in other words, we had done a report, made recommendations, and now the next step, if you're going to implement them, you actually need construction drawings that you're going to hand to contractors to put prices on, and then select a bidder or a contractor, they go on and make the improvements. Over the course of that process, most recently, I believe it was in June, we had a preliminary summary of what that would look like. And when we met with Sean and Jim and John, there was a request to add some air conditioning to a couple of the units. So our scope at that time had included wholesale replacement of about 10 units in the B wing, about 5 units in the C wing, and then on the D wing, some of the units had already recently been replaced within the last 10 years. Half of those had air conditioning, and it was suggested that we modify the other units so that they could also have air conditioning. So that's how the cost jumped from the 1.7 to the 3.3. You say, geez, that's almost twice. When you're adding air conditioning, unfortunately, there's a lot of things you have to consider. When you have a compressor that compresses the refrigerant, you have a coil that's now going to go within that airstream. You now have some added control points, which unfortunately are not very cheap, that have to be put into your building control system so that you know you have the feedback and the control you need. So where we sit right now, I have a set of plans here that I would consider as about 30%, about schematic. We've done our building loads. We understand what the heating and cooling loads are. We understand what the ventilation rates need to be specific to each of the units that are being considered for replacement. And we have a set that I would consider, again, a schematic set. That's what the cost estimate is based upon right now. And that cost estimate includes not only the cost of construction, and I'm sure you've all been paying attention, that the cost of many things, including construction, is very volatile. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed and saying these are somewhat conservative. As supply chain issues loosen up, there's a chance that cost is going to come down. I'm not going to guarantee that. But right now, our cost estimate includes the cost of construction, a contingency of 20%, which may sound like it's high, but at this point in the design, it's right where it should be. As we get into more detailed plans, construction drawings, that'll drop down to 10%. It includes overhead and profit. It also includes insurance. And we priced out each one of the scopes of work for each wing. So you can see, I believe John had sent our report around. You can see how those numbers break down accordingly. So our plan is to continue to put detail on the drawings. And we anticipate that we will have a set for your consideration at the end of September. Once that's approved, we get the state review, we can put the job out for bid, and ideally, if the board approves the project, we'll be able to go to construction next summer with a portion or perhaps all of the scope, depending on the availability of the equipment. Now, I know I threw a lot out there, and I'm sure there's some questions out there, so please let me know if you have any questions.
Andy?
I have just a couple. So one of the things is that Vermont Efficiency had earmarked us for potential second round. We are continuing to wait and hear from them. They have told us that if we move forward with the project, we're out of their thing. So that's part of the holdup on our end a little bit, and I can't get an answer from Vermont Efficiency. The other question I have is the addition of the AC, which I wasn't aware of. Does that change the bid and the original ask for the project?
Well, it does increase the construction cost.
But does it change? Because when we went and requested funds from ESSER, there was a specific RFP and bid that was supposed to happen. So if we're increasing things that weren't asked for in the original bid, is that changing the project? And you may not know the answer to that,
Well,
but I
don't, I would have to go and look at the specific language, but certainly the majority of that project is improving indoor air quality through ventilation and exhaust and control.
I just need to know if I got to go change something, because if it gets if we
Just-
go ahead with it and then it gets disallowed, this board's on the hook.
And Vermont Efficiency was the original manager of the funds that paid for that initial report.
David?
We have up here on John's wish list, which actually is really useful. First item, HVAC upgrades, $3.3 million, ESSER. This is concept approval. If I heard you correctly here before, Mike, you said that it was AC that got us up to that 3.3 level. Is that correct?
A portion of that,
Okay.
yes, was air conditioning upgrades.
Okay, so the number that you wrapped around it at this point in time is 3.3, and I'm just simply pointing out that that appears to be consistent with the concept approval on ESSER funding, concept approval. I think we're there, Andy.
Okay,
So-
I just want to make sure that that's all.
I'm very much for the air conditioning upgrade, because you get 300 sweaty kids in here and the air quality has got to go down.
Right.
So the air conditioning would help greatly. But that, I just want to clarify, is the air conditioning, so with the specs that you have, the air conditioning will be throughout the whole building now with the stuff that we have already?
It will augment the air conditioning system in portions of the D-wing. There were some areas that we, again, made judgment calls because we knew that there was not necessarily unlimited funds, where we would, provide air conditioning, where we wouldn't provide air conditioning.
So it's not gonna,
Not building-wide.
The gym in this
yeah,
design.
it doesn't make sense to have.
You know, gym and the cafeteria, I think we excluded those. Again, Ryan had a good drawing of it there, which would be good to let everybody see at some point.
Yeah, we can
I'm not
send, I
capable of
can
putting
forward
that
out,
up there.
I can forward the, basically it's like a zoning map for what's existing and what's proposed.
But for here,
And the gym is a
the
good
lease
example.
cost is, or when I say lease cost, it's not a big cost. The 6 units on the roof, 2 have cooling units in, the other 4 can be fitted. And I think that's the least cost of the job particulars from what I remember, so.
Priscilla?
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in finding out where, if we're not having all of that, because I've specifically asked meeting after meeting that we have air conditioning included in all of this. And so I mean, I worked in this building and I know how hot it can get. It just got really uncomfortable. And then when you're trying to do summer programs and that, even after the school year is done, it's even worse. So it's crucial. So, yeah, so you're going to get the information to us about
Well,
where it's not
I
included?
can just tell you,
Please.
going by Ryan's map,
Yeah,
that the gym, the locker rooms, and the cafeteria are both cafeterias are basically the only parts of the school on this map that won't be. So that the whole middle of the school, the C section, that will all be.
so the
And the
auditorium
D
and
wing.
The
the
auditorium,
music
yes.
rooms and art and all of that, and the special edit.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike?
Yes. PCB is kind of a buzzword in Vermont these days. Burlington, after a couple of years going to school in old Macy's building because their high school campus was condemned, are looking, I think they got approval from the city council to consider a bond of around $160 million for replacement. Of course, they're hoping that we'll pick up some of their action based on legislative action in Montpelier. If I recall correctly, there are 3 phases in which AOE is expecting to determine the presence, the practical presence of PCBs in Vermont schools. And since they got wind of the fact that we're talking about an HVAC upgrade here, they bounced us into the last tranche. I think what bluntly trying to do is kick that can down the road to a different administration and probably a different legislature. Say, well, there you go. My question, and I think we need to do the HVAC, but is it possible to wrap hard numbers around doing the PCB testing? This is just one guy sitting at the table saying this, but I think it would be a crying shame if we went ahead with a $3.3 million HVAC upgrade to this building and found out that we had a PCB problem that might be too big to tame, like they found out in Burlington. So is it possible to wrap a number around doing the testing? Because if we're putting it off till next summer, you know, breaking ground, if you will, or getting up on the roof, I just think it's something that the board should consider. And it would be helpful, I believe, if we had a number that might be associated with doing testing in advance of the state's schedule.
That sounds prudent. Unfortunately, I can't really comment on what that would cost. Certainly, it's not something we get involved in. I certainly can recommend some environmental engineers.
Well, I guess that's the question I'm asking then.
So just to say, though, that a properly designed building system that exhausts adequately, introduces outside air adequately, that can be pre-programmed to purge before occupancy in the morning, fitted with energy recovery devices. You know, those are measures that are known to address all sorts of contamination is one word. Issues where there are constituents in the air that you want to pollute, exhaust, get rid of. So just by the very nature of making sure that the system here is the right system and designed properly, you're taking a step towards addressing that. Now,
That's a large step, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, until we know the concentrations that are involved, you know, it's all speculation. But in general, exhausting and introducing outside air is the way to treat that.
Thank you. I'm just going to suggest to Buildings and Grounds Chair that that's a topic that the board might afford, the committee might consider when it meets again next month.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So, and I think this might be a John or Andy question.
So we have this new figure, the I don't have that in front of me.
Right,
3.3, and there's the preliminary ESSER approval, stage 1. Is it for 3.3 or is it for the original 1 point?
I think well, Andy can talk better than me, but I thought just the concept, the original approval is just for the job itself, and
Not
the actual
financial.
price comes back when we get the RFP.
Okay, I just wanted
I think, anyway, yeah, please correct me or jump in.
That's correct.
John, can we have it one more time? Because what it says here on the paper is HVAC upgrades, 3.3 million ESSER concept approval. So it's the 3.3. Okay.
That's the number that Mike has now.
Which one is it?
put
That we have
forward.
concept approval on, 3.3 or 1.8?
1.8.
Oh, 1.8, okay.
Okay.
That's,
Oh,
okay, got it. Thank you.
well, that's what I guess I was asking, because that's a big difference, of the amount that they, we have a bigger number than what they conceptually approve.
What does that mean to me, Andy?
Well,
What I'm gonna come up
so again, as you get concept approval, so we have like a project at Central for upgrading the kitchen. We got concept approval for that. It appears that that bid is coming back higher. And so every time a bid comes back higher and we get into it and we start getting to it, we have to look at the big pot of money and where it's all being allocated, and as things start to go away. As Ricky kind of pointed out during the committee, Building and Grounds Committee, it's where are we allocating our funds throughout the year?
So if we have concept approval of 1.8, Mike tells me it's gonna be 3.3 to do what we need to do
I will
for
have
this
to,
building.
I'll have to ask the state that question, what happens when it doubles? I'm speculating that they say that you push it up and they take a look at whether they're gonna approve that dollar amount or not. They challenged me when the circuit breaker seemed to be more, and didn't approve the extra monies, but then that got pushed back down or something like that. I don't know exactly, because we only had a fixed amount. So I'll have to double check with that.
Okay. Thank you.
So just a quick follow-up on that. So if for some reason they're not going to approve the air conditioning component or that amount that includes the air conditioning, do we have a breakdown of costs for each component? So like if we say,
don't
all
have-
right, we can't do the
don't
air
have a breakdown
conditioning.
now because typically at this point, you don't go into that detail. You will have a detailed cost estimate. And one of the options that we talked about with Jim and Sean and John is we can provide construction alternates for the air conditioning, so that there's a base bid, which would be the original intent, if you will, of the project, and then you can see what the cost adds would be, and pick and choose, and maybe it comes in cheaper.
Okay.
It gives you a little more flexibility for just this situation.
And that would be something that the board would be fully involved and vote on. So it's not, it's all transparent and, yeah.
So if we had to back it back and not put air conditioning in units, can those be added later?
If we make some provisions now, I just will say that 1.7 was 2+ years ago, before we got into the current bid situation or cost situation we're in now. So, it's not gonna be less than 1.7, it's probably gonna be a little bit more. And I guarantee everybody at ESSER knows that.
Jason?
So I just want to make sure I'm hearing what everybody's saying. So we approved 1.7 as a go. No?
Nothing's approved.
Okay. What did we vote on in?
You guys voted to spend $160,000 of local funds to fund the work Mike and his
So
company
far?
have been doing, yes.
So if we said, thanks, we're only at 160 compared to,
Not at 160, that included some costs for bidding and construction, administration, So that's a total all-in, beginning of job to end of job.
I think if we're gonna do it, we do it. But then we have to figure out where the money's coming from. The taxpayers need to be involved. And I think Mike's gonna donate 1.7 of non-billable, he was just about to say.
I missed that part.
So, no, I think that's the other piece, and the reason why I mentioned Vermont efficiency, because the conversation we had with them was there were specific aspects of the project that grant would be able to cover. It couldn't cover the whole piece, because there's certain things that are new and there's retros, right? Like I said, I'm not very smart in this whole area, but there are certain parts that are retro and there's certain parts that are new upgrades. And so I think it was the new upgrades that Vermont Efficiency was saying would fit under their grant and the retros wouldn't. So certain wings would be able to. So in theory, if Vermont Efficiency was able to cover $1 million of something, then you got that. But it's very frankly, it's been very frustrating because we had the conversation with Vermont Efficiency in June, and I have been. It's a great conversation. I've been pinging them late, constantly, and I have not gotten any answers. And there were a couple other folks who had some pull through the legislature and stuff, said they'd be happy to act on our behalf and try and move that, and I just haven't heard back from them.
It's not too surprising, I think. I work
Oh,
with Efficiency Vermont a lot, and summer has been a tough time with so many vacations.
And I think that's been the whole AOE is they
Yeah.
take time off too, and so everything went on slow.
Hopefully, and I think, and I'm not sure exactly where Efficiency Vermont's grant funding is at, but my guess is they're not going to pay for something that we've already spent money on. But, if we're not going to construction until, say, next summer, if we're lucky to do that. But we should have
The
a
woman I
plan,
spoke
right?
with was very clear. I said, we've submitted this just through ESSER, and she said, okay, whoa, where are you? Yeah, she said, do you have project approval? And I said, no. She said, then don't go for project approval. She said, if you have project approval, we can't fund you.
That's pretty rough.
So, I mean, it was that clear to me, so.
Hurry up and wait.
Okay,
If you'd like us to participate in those conversations with us, if you think it's beneficial.
anyone else? Are we good to send Mike home?
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you for coming.
Mike, thanks for coming out.
We'll walk you out.
It's been great.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sean.
John, was that all for your principal's report? Does anyone have any questions
Yeah.
for John? Jason?
John, on the generator, number 4,
Yes.
how many hours a day is that gonna run?
Sean's right here.
It won't run. The only time it was being used before we were having the problems, and that was before I was doing this job, so I may not be exactly right on all of it. The only time we ran it was when either the power went out or the 4 hours per
Month.
month or
Yeah.
week
No month.
that GMP was telling us to. We never just turned it on, but
So it's 4 hours a month?
I thought it
That's
was.
what I heard.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's good, because I heard, I
It's
thought
when
it
they
was.
when they tell us, but it was 4 hours, and
And
we
it's a
talked to
time
one
when
of
we're
the,
closed,
we
right?
talked to one of the guys from, up in Green Mountain Power last year, and that's what he said. He said, one Friday night a month, they're gonna tell you, and from say 5 to 9 or whatever the
Yeah.
time is, we put
That's
it
what it
off.
was.
Right.
We put ours off and we go on to generator, and that's gonna save us in the region of $2 to $3 grand a month on electric bill, so.
Yeah, because I thought I heard it was 4 hours a day to offset the Green Mountain bill, which is on a monthly $8,395. But if it takes 16 gallons per hour of diesel to run that generator at a cost of $4.90. So that's $78.40 per hour to run that generator. If you're doing 4 hours a day, that would have been $11,000, so it would have just been,
It's once a month.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And the
clarification.
savings could be 2,000 to 3,000. Again, we'll know better when we start doing it, but it was a colossal savings, and I couldn't believe we'd gone this far. So, thank you, Sean. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions for our principal before we move on? June?
To the equitable, diversity, equity, yeah.
Now that you said it, I can't say it. The equity.
Are those going, when you said you addressing the students, is that going to be in an
First-
auditorium?
first day of school
And
in
that's
the
gonna
audi-
be the first.
First day of
okay,
school in the
thank you.
auditorium. Yep. And again, I know we had spoke earlier, but I'll
I'll tell.
give you more of a, I mean, it's not a secret. So
Yeah.
just explain it. So, yeah, that's later. Right there.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We all set with Mr. Bradley for a minute? So I would like to move on to our athletic director. Ian, the floor is yours. Can you come up so we can see you?
Guys, share it with Ricky,
I got you with Ricky.
or I can jump on, I guess, right? No, I haven't, I'm not on, but.
What's on there, let's see.
Some purposely go slow.
Ricky or Richard?
So while, just as a preface to this, while they're, buy them a little bit of time. I know the board has asked for Ian to come and present to give, my understanding is to give you a better understanding of what the day in the life of the athletic director is, what he does, and the impact that he has, not necessarily on them, and then any questions that you have around that.
Yeah, so can I just, for a
Sure.
second,
Sure.
you know, what we're really trying to do is, and we're gonna have a, we're gonna have someone on, we hope, a department or a special teacher on each, on one meeting a month. So if we have to have 2 meetings a month, we're probably not gonna have, 2 meeting. We're gonna try to have someone come in and, just to, you know, give us a little rundown on what you do. Ian, would you introduce our new athletic trainer before?
Okay, all right, perfect.
Come on in.
Come on in. Yeah, spend enough time together already.
So it's pretty exciting to have an athletic trainer in our school, so.
Yeah, after all these years.
Yeah.
Yeah, been almost 10 years, I think. Officer. So, this is Rebecca Bernard. We stole her from a school in New Jersey, brought her up to fresh air, and she said after the first few days, she's already felt more relaxed.
Way more relaxed.
With how nice of a quality of life it is up here compared to down there. So, I'll let you
And
speak for a minute.
and the staff here is way more welcoming and took me in with open arms, and I feel like I've been here for already over a year with how they are with me, so I appreciate that.
And you're working with the sports teams already?
Yes, so we started on the 15th, and just football for a few days.
At
Just
8
football.
a.m. with the first rehab.
Yeah.
The first
I've said that for a while, just football.
But
Get
it
in
was
trouble for
great.
that.
It was great, because that's one way it shows all the other athletes what I do and gives them an appreciation for, you're injured, but at least you can be doing something active while they are practicing and doing something to help them get back onto the field. So, do you guys know what an athletic trainer is? Does everybody know what an athletic trainer does? You don't know?
No,
Or you do? Oh, okay.
I do. I just, my name is Jason, I'm a school board member here. And I just want to say thank you. I've been a big proponent of doing this. Are you gonna also be doing strength and conditioning as well?
If the teams want me to, I definitely can. That was part of our education. So we have taken strength and conditioning classes. At my one school, I used to do it's better off season to do a lot of the strength and conditioning. So during the off season, when other teams are practicing, if other teams want to come and do some form of circuit training or lifting, or I can always run through that with, and of course, the coaches have to be on board with it, but that's something we could do. I haven't obviously done it yet. We're gonna start.
How are you going to manage, because you're only one person?
Yeah.
So if there's a football game Friday night and the field hockey team is away and football's home, how are you gonna be able to tape everyone up you're gonna tape them before they get on a bus? How are you
Yeah,
gonna manage all of that?
Yeah, so luckily I actually came from a school in Jersey where I had 16 teams per season. So, and there was only one of me. So I'm used to having a million arms and hands and working on it. So luckily, if they're away games, I come in early and then get them on the bus. I'll treat them, do the rehab, do taping, get them onto the bus before the other teams come. And then that's when I'll start taping up either the football guys or the other teams that have home games. But luckily, since these teams are farther away, I'll come in because they're going to be coming out of school a little bit earlier, and that's when I tape them and get them ready. So luckily, it's a little bit more staggered. But luckily, if there's games going on at once, I do stick with the most impact. So I stay with usually football. So if something's going on with football, I tend to stay with football, and then I'll be on the call, so I can quickly get to the other fields.
I have a procedural question. Is this what people at home are saying? I think it'd be nice if we could see our AD and our trainer.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Are they there somewhere?
Yeah, they're right there. There they are.
They're in the small little
Okay.
square. Oh, we just lost.
So that is whoever's speaking, no, it's accurate me.
I can't get them bigger.
They're too far away from the cameras, that's why.
Any other questions?
So and I know you're just starting, so it'll evolve and change, but maybe, could you just give us a sense, so when you're doing preseason with some of the teams, what types of things are you working with the teams on?
Yeah, so right now we have football, field hockey and soccer like to come at 7 a.m. So I tend to come 30 minutes early. So if anyone, luckily right now there's not many injuries with field hockey and soccer because they just started. But we have I would say a handful already of football kids coming in. So they come to me at 7:15 for practice at 8 a.m. And that's when I do either injury evals, re-evals. I've been doing rehab with a lot of the kids and then get them out before their practice starts at 8. So that's what I've been doing there. We have, I would say a good 6-7 injuries with football already. Some prior coming into the season with that I've been managing, then a couple that came about already. That's that.
And do the coaches refer the kids to you, or do the kids know that this position exists? And they're
Coach,
there?
We at every first practice we went around introducing, and we told them that the kids need to go to the coaches first, and then they come to me. So the coaches need to know, because there has to be some form of a communication. That's either where the kid, he's coming maybe 1 minute out and he's running out to practice, or if, let's say, the kid has an ankle injury, but there's something in the past that the coach knows more about, then the coach will just give me a little, this kid had this in the past, he's coming to you tomorrow, he came to me tonight. So there's a big communication between that. I told them if the kids come to me first and the coaches don't know, I send them right out to go talk to the coaches first, and then they come back to me.
Thank you.
Jason?
Thank you, Molly. Could you see yourself maybe in the future as an added benefit to the staff, maybe doing a class in the gym before school opens, where as an added perk to working here, as we're all struggling to find staff, that you could run a workout class either before school or after school, or I don't know, just a brainstorming idea.
I can't do anything after school since that's my hours are after school. I provide coverage right when little before school ends, then I'm here till sports are done. But I talked to them, and I'm gonna do some subbing, I believe, throughout the school year, maybe once or twice a week. That could be a possibility. It's just something I have to talk to them too.
I just think anything to entice staff to work for us compared to other schools, I think is
Oh,
always an
you're
added
meaning
perk.
work, like to train
The teachers that work here,
teachers?
like work out or yoga or
I
strength
I mean, I
training.
do offer rehab, and if any of the teachers are hurt, I do always, luckily I haven't, there's no teachers here yet, but teachers do tend to come, so if they need rehab or they don't have time for physical therapy, I tend to give them home exercise program pack. I don't know if you guys have been to PT before, but sometimes if you go to PT, they make packets of exercises that they can do at home. So I tend to do that. I already made a Google Classroom for all the athletes of exercises. So if they have knee pain or they know they can have knee pain, these are at least a summary of exercises you can do. So I know a lot of the teachers end up coming to me for rehab as a physical therapist if they don't have time for PT on the side.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ian, I think the floor is yours.
Is it okay if you go? She's been here. So.
I've been here since
Like-
6 a.m.
Oh my God.
So,
It was so nice to meet you.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
All right, I'm gonna talk a lot because there's a lot that I do. Some of it's up there, some of it's, I'll just be repeating it. But first of all, just so you know, this is a Sean Burke paint job, and this was a drone photography from our science teacher, Jason Harris. So I think that's a great thing. I think we use this for a bunch of stuff. We used to use them for the website.
Do, I mean, do what you control, or you can just say next slide now.
Okay, just next slide. So this is just, I broke it down to our sports offerings and our co-curricular offerings. My position isn't just athletic director, it's all activities. So everything that happens here outside of the school. So for the sports, we've got the football, field hockey, boys and girls soccer, cross country for boys and girls basketball, indoor track for both boys and girls. Right now, we only offer girls tennis. The interest on the boys side has kind of faded over the last few years. But if boys want to do it, we'll bring it back. Baseball, softball, and track and field for boys and girls. Also, right now, we are sending kids out. We do 2 member-to-members for ice hockey because we don't have a team. So we go to 2 separate schools for that. And we also have an independent participant in wrestling that we're looking to go co-op. So those are kind of our sports, but we don't officially have them at the moment. So all the non-sports co-curriculars right now that we're offering, we got the band, fall play, spring musical, math team, student council, the school newspaper, also known as the Howler, the Gay Straight Alliance, the gaming club, yearbook, marathon, National Honor Society. And I put new club suggestions because most years this list changes a little bit. Like the gaming club was something new last year. The kids come back, we'll continue it this year. If not, that'll go away, and something else that they want to do, we'll bring back. So that's just new clubs, so that changes all the time. So this is just kind of a breakdown of all the slides that I have of kind of the main things that I work with. All the scheduling, transportation, budgeting, paperwork, fields and courts, the coaches, working with the officials, attending games, eligibility and discipline, athletic injuries, and end of season awards. Now, anything that relates to athletic injuries, that's kind of, I mostly have last year's information in here because I was trying to do this last year. I think it got bumped a little bit, but now that'll change a little bit, working with Rebecca. So the scheduling, it's not as simple as just say we want to play these teams. It starts out with about 9 months ahead of time, we create our alignments in the Southern Vermont League, which is pretty much from that 91-89 split south. That's our main league. So that way we create the alignments, then we schedule the opponents, and then working with the SVL, we go through about 5 to 7 drafts of the schedule before we finalize a varsity only schedule. Then once we finalize the varsity schedule, we have to confirm it and then move and make changes as needed. Things pop up, prom, our ACT date that we do kids, so things get scheduled, we have to move games for that. Then once we have our varsity schedule built, we have to go ahead and build our non-varsity schedule on our own, which then we confirm and then make changes and move as needed. There's League Minder, Scorebook Live, and Google Calendar. Those are all things that League Minder, we're required to use it as part of the Southern Vermont League. It's a way for all the ADs to be on the same page. Whatever's on there that I see, the other school sees. I make a change, they get an email about the change. So cuts down on any of those conflicts. Scorebook Live is a new thing for the last 2 years, I believe, that the VPA is using. That we put on our scores, and that creates our ranking for playoffs through the VPA. The Google Calendar is what runs our websites, and hopefully all the parents and kids are looking on that. We have sport-specific calendars for every team we have that hold their game schedule, their bus departure schedule, and their practice schedule. In the fall and in the spring, we have to coordinate with the middle school on field usage. They use their own gym during the winter. As we move forward, we've got to arrange playoff games, host or travel. With host, that's a whole bunch of logistics here. If it's travel, it's a little bit easier for us. We arrange the practice schedule with all the coaches. I kind of give them parameters. I let the coaches determine what works best for them for practicing. Right now, it's more open-ended because we're preseason, so they're practice early as 6:30 in the morning, going till 7 at night. But once school starts, everything happens after school. And the coaches and I will keep the schedules up to date on the Google Calendar. We will also work with a local company out of Keene to produce those sports posters that you see around town. That's really good. Their message out gets our schedules out, but as a school, we actually get some money back every season from those posters. So that money can go back towards the kids in their program. I say we because it feels like a we working here in the office. Coordinate schedule with the master school schedule. I don't know if any of you saw in your tour around today, we have that giant schedule board out there that pretty much every day has 2 to 3 events. We have to make sure everything that I'm coordinating works around everything on that schedule. Deal with last minute changes. The big thing is weather. Buses, officials, getting the teams notified, the coaches notified, all the game workers. During the winter, we have to, make the determination. Are we going to send someone over to, say, Mill River or Twin Valley up over some mountains for the winter? Is it going to snow there? Is it going to rain here? A little bit of a meteorologist background comes into play on that. When that happens, a lot of rescheduling of games again, keep in mind with all the master schedules. Also organizing and assigning event personnel, such as ticket takers, timers, scorers, announcers, officials, security, medical personnel for all the games. So the next aspect of my position, transportation. I have to arrange the transportation to all the away events. We do that through bus forms here. Once we put in all our requests for the games, I have to then go ahead and confirm with the head of transportation and then often the bus drivers for every game, make sure we're all on the same page, make changes as events get canceled. Again, more looking at weather and trips, what we're going to do, especially during the winter. Then again, any conflicts that come up, like every place, there's shortages. We have a shortage of bus drivers. Everybody's got a shortage of bus drivers. We might have to make some last minute changes, and that's going to fall on me, whether we move bus times or we have to move games to make sure we can get these kids safely to all the games. Next slide. Budgeting. as we all know, budget season's a fun, long process that we all get to go through. I help build the budget for all co-curricular activities. I take the input from the coaches, what they want, put in what I think we should have, and then I sit down with administration. We try to make a budget that works for everyone. During the year, ordering all the supplies and tracking all the budget expenses to make sure we fall within what we're allotted. Not go over, but also get everybody what we need. Don't always get what we want, but we get what we need. All right, paperwork. When I got into this, I did not know it's all paperwork. Mounds of paper. Well, I guess now it's mounds of digital files. But we have the parent permission form that needs to get updated every year. I take care of that and print and distribute. I have to track all the parent permission. Every kid that does a sport here has to have specific permission for each individual sport for each individual year. Each student is required to have a green card, which is medical information. So if a child gets injured and they have to go off on an ambulance, it's all the medical information they need for that. Track physicals, we have to have physicals. Every kid has to have one a year. Gets very hectic, people forget. Insurances only let you get one every calendar year. So we really have to stay on top of all the paperwork, track everybody's dates, and make sure everyone gets to stay up to date and informed. With the physicals and a lot of this information, I have to keep Power School updated with all that. So if I'm ever not here or anyone needs some information, we can all find it on Power School. I run the signups here in the school. I also have to reach out to the middle school in the spring for signups when they come up here, and then distribute those lists to the coaches. Every year or every so often, I review the coaches' handbooks and co-curricular guidelines, and update, make changes as things change, manage, share, distribute, print rosters. We hadn't even started yet, and the newspaper's already asking us for rosters and what's going on here. So again, more paperwork and typing, which is wonderful, wonderful. Thank God for Stacy that helped out with some of the typing. Fields and courts. Here we are very lucky. Everybody here has their own space, but we still have to coordinate field usage, court usage. I'll start with the field. 2 soccer teams, 1 field. We got to make sure everyone gets their own time. They each have their games. Make sure that the team that doesn't have the field can go off and have a nice place to practice. We do work a little bit with the middle school. They do all their fall and spring sports up here. So make sure that there aren't any conflicts with that. The court usage, 1 basketball court, 4 teams. Just takes a little bit of scheduling, but working with the coaches, that's all right. But again, we've got to make sure that's all free when it needs to be used. Coordinate facility usage. Because we have such a great facility here, lots of people like to use their facility that are outside of our school. So I help coordinate outside groups that want to use our facilities while mixing in while we get to use our facilities. Make decisions on field conditions. You get a day like today, we might, I'll work with Sean and all that, and we'll take a look. If our field didn't drain so well, we might say, it's safe to be outside, but it's not safe to be on your game field today. We don't want to ruin your game field. So we got to find you another place to practice. So that's kind of the field condition aspect. Field and/or court touch-up. If you've ever gone to a field hockey game, you see that our goal mounts are a dust bowl come the second game. We often, during the game or halftime, have to touch up the field a little bit with some new paint. The courts, you never know. Sometimes we're asked to clean them during games, between games. Kind of do whatever you have to do to keep that stuff up and running well. All right, when's the next thing? So with all the coaches, right now we have 26 coaches over 19 teams, I believe it is. So I make the recommendations on the hiring and firing. I don't actually make the hiring and firing. I just make the recommendations to Mr. Broadley. We go from there. I'm always reviewing the coaches, seeing how they're interacting with the kids, seeing how they're interacting with me, making sure they're doing what they need to do and what they're asked to do. Improve the training of coaches. We're always looking for new training courses and kind of not pushing them, but requesting, asking our coaches to go ahead. Even the best coaches in the world don't know it all. We want them to get better and better and keep improving. And the VPA also requires many trainings, so I have to track all the training of coaches and register everybody on the VPA website. Make sure all our coaches are up to date with that. I have coaches meetings 3 times a year, a main meeting, but then I probably meet with each individual coach. I probably talk to each coach we have a couple times a week. So it's constantly, just how are things going? Do you need anything? A lot of times it's just good and we can keep moving, but try to help them as much as possible. Equipment, reconditioning, and storage needs. This is a very good building, a very open building, which kind of cuts down on our storage spaces. So we always are trying to get creative where we can store our equipment that we're allowed. Reconditioning, in charge of, for football, we have to send out all our equipment every year. Goes through a cleaning and reconditioning process before it comes back. So we have to arrange that going in and out. And of course, when you do that, you lose equipment. It's not safe for us to use anymore. Then we have to replenish the equipment. Help collect uniforms. Not every coach is here in the building all the time. End of the season, we got to collect all those uniforms back so we can use them the next year. If we don't get them back, we have to track them because we have to put the kids on property due. So we can either get the uniforms back or the money back so you can replace them. So it doesn't cost the school any extra money. Handle the coaches' contracts, just getting the information to John in the central office for the contracts to be made. In review of the emergency action plan with all the coaches and the teams every season. So we have to run that over with every kid. So when any emergency arises, all the kids know what to do. Luckily, we've only had to use it a handful of times. Girls soccer's used it once, and it's great. We had the ambulance here within 2 to 3 minutes. Everyone did everything great. So thank you. All right. I also have to take care of all the officials for the varsity and sub-varsity games. So for the varsity, we have assigners for every game, so I have to stay in touch with them, confirm all our games, confirm the officials, and then confirm with the officials as the game gets closer. And then again, if we make any changes to games, notify all the officials and the assigner of any changes made. I take care of the payment and all the paperwork for the officials when they're here. Then for some sports, also we don't have to, but we provide places for them to change, shower, meet before and after games to talk about how the games went, so I can arrange all that. I have to arrange all the JV officials without assigners. If anybody knows anyone who likes to umpire baseball or softball, please let me know. So in the spring we have a bigger pool to choose from. I meet all the officials at the games, again, provide any items that they need. I work with the officials, the assigners, and each sport commissioner when students get in-game discipline. I'll stick with soccer. They're yellow and red cards. As they get carded, reports get written up, and then we have to deal with the assigners and then any appropriate discipline to come after that. So I have to take care of all of that as well. And then again, once I have the discussion with the assigners and the commissioner, then I do have to meet with the student and the coach to discuss what happened. Next slide. A big part of my after-school responsibilities come with attending the games. I know I have it a little bit further down, but the biggest reason why I'm there is to help support the kids. We're here for them. But I attend as many home games as possible. There are multiple events. We're spread out. I bounce around. It takes a lot for me to miss a game. So I've seen quite a bit over the years, but it's always fun. You might not like the sport, but if you know the kids or the people that are doing it, it makes it a lot better to watch. Crowd control, the big events, football, basketball, and now field hockey. When we get these bigger crowds, we have to make sure, field hockey, they have to be so many feet off the sidelines. Football, they can't come too close to the field. Basketball, we kind of split up the bleachers a little bit. They're just making sure that all our fans and everybody does what they need to do and not get out of control. And our fans over the years have been very good, very well behaved. I think one time we've had an issue where we had to involve the sheriff in 13 years, so I think that's pretty good. I talked with the sheriffs. We coordinate with the Windham County Sheriff's Office for coverage at events. We cover all football events and most home basketball games with coverage, just in case administration or myself can't handle what's going on. We can involve them. I attend any away games if needed. That happens mostly away playoff games. They like to have a representative from that school come. You become the administrator on duty for those games. If it's a Springfield football game, I go. If I can, I got to present the trophy to the winning team. Only 1 year I've had to give it to Springfield. Every year we get to keep it ourselves. Great. 10 playoff games as the administrator on duty. We travel up to Burlington, over to Rutland. We go to all the state games and help the VPA keep a lid on the crowd, help keep everybody controlled, help things run smoothly. Run the clock if needed. We have the clock. You don't need a whole lot of special training to run it for soccer or for field hockey. So I often end up running it for those sports as well. Make announcements. Pre-game announcements now. Some sports we have to talk about sportsmanship from the VPA, get that message out there. Other times I'm asked to go talk to the crowd if they're a little rowdy. The official might stop the game or have me go do it at stoppage of games, go talk to the fans. Arrange to bring money to games. All the games that we have to pay, I got to get workers and bring all the money and take care of that afterwards for all football and basketball games. Make sure all the scoreboards are running and maintained. Since I've been here, we've gotten every scoreboard either brand new or replaced since I've been here, and we want to keep them in good working order. So I'm in communication with the company that installed them to make sure they're always up and running. I also, part of my job, I take care of all the eligibility and discipline for all the co-curricular activities. So every 6 weeks or so, we run an eligibility list. I run the list. I coordinate with coaches. Any student that becomes ineligible, then they have to go on 2-week tracking, and that's something that I run through with the kids. I follow and then check in with them, and then hopefully after the 2-week period, they become eligible to play again. So that's administer the 2-week tracking. Handle all the discipline matters that pertain to students involved in co-curricular activities. Also through our guidelines, sometimes a student gets in trouble doing something in the community, or back when they used to paint the driveway here and get caught. They weren't doing something in athletics, but it also impacts their co-curricular. Because when you sign your parent permission form, it's a 365-day a year commitment to the school and to do the right thing. So injuries. Right now, I write up and I work and update all the emergency action plans. We have to have one for every location that our teams play or practice at, and I have to review those with the teams. We have to have a concussion management plan, which with the help of the school nurse, we write and we keep updated. Work with the nurse. The ATC is a certified athletic trainer and coaches on the concussion safe return. Part of your return to play for a concussion isn't just return to play, but also return to learn. So we have to run them through these processes. And again, work with the athletic trainer, coaches, kids, parents, nurse, regards to any injuries when the kids return from injuries. That consists doctor's notes, what they can do and for how long. And we want to bring them back as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. End of season awards. I keep track and I order all the awards for all the sports. I have all the awards printed. We get them printed for each team, each season. We reprint them with the proper information on them. Get those to the coaches. Oversee the plans for each team's end of the regular season awards or their Purple Pride event. Post the banner and state championship ceremony. I help, again, post and set that up. Every time we win a banner, we invite everybody into the gym. we lower the banner. We also like to have something at either Purple Pride or this past year we went to a school-wide assembly every time we win that championship to involve the whole school, get everyone excited about what's going on. Order the banners, all the banners in the gym. There's a great we actually replaced them. They were all handmade up until a few years ago. We had them all replaced with the new ones, and now we can get those made up at any time. All the organizations that I'm a member of and I do different things with. So the first one's Vermont Principals Association. They're the ones that provide all the rules and regulations that we have to follow for every sports season. So I have to stay up to date on all their rules and regulations. We have bi-monthly meetings as a state where we go over and have our own trainings and go over new rules and set the new rules. I'm also a member of the VPA football committee, tennis committee, and field hockey committee. So every year we meet, we review the rules and the Vermont standards, and we set all those and put them out for the state to follow. Let's see, use the VPA to help clarify rules, coordinate the VPA with all playoff games. All playoff games are run by the VPA through us. I also have to work with the VPA and set up all member-to-member and cooperative teams. Any waivers for hardship or eligibility waivers or age waivers. We have to do, every season we have to do an application for playoffs. So I have to take care of that. And then every year for playoffs, we have conference calls before the finals. I have to take part in those conference calls. The Southern Vermont League is that league I was talking about. That's basically from 89 South, all the schools here. For that, again, we have bi-monthly meetings where we review any bylaws. We can go over any issues. We can help each other out. Everybody's facing the same issues that we are. And also in the Southern Vermont League, I am the commissioner for field hockey. So whenever an issue in any field hockey in the southern half of the state, there's an issue that requires discipline or hashing out, I have to get involved in that. The Vermont State Athletic Directors Association, again, that's part of, again, with our meetings with the VPA are also the VSADA. So those are the bi-monthly meetings where we also have trainings. Again, discuss issues and how we can tackle all those. That's also too when they offer training courses. The VSADA will run them through the NIAAA. So those are trainings for me to better myself. They're often 4-hour-long classes. So I can reach different levels for certification if I want. But again, just to expand my knowledge, because no matter how much you know, you can always know more. Other related responsibilities. So this is just stuff I couldn't really quite think of where it might go. But I work with the Booster Club, specifically Ginny Corson, on setting up at all the football games, all the basketball games, for the concession stands, running their sales, helping them run their sales of stuff, setting up for whenever we win a state championship, they always use their money to buy either jackets or bags or some type of gift to all the kids. They also run 50-50 to raise money because all the money that they take in, 60% goes to scholarships for our kids, and the other 40% they use to help pay for the state jackets and all that stuff. And I will put in a plug that if anybody out there listening or watching wants to join the Booster Club, please let me know. I'll put you in contact with Mrs. Corson. She's always looking for more help. I also have to help keep parts of the website up to date. Each team has their own web page that we keep the information hopefully up to date and accurate on that. Right now, put the med kits together and resupply them during the season. That's something that Rebecca and I will be doing together. She'll figure out what we need. I'll be ordering. I often have to meet with any kids during the day that might have questions or concerns about things that are happening. Same with parents. I deal with all the parents that have any questions or concerns about what's going on. I get tons of daily emails and phone calls that I deal with. In-season sports emails, I've taken to emailing the whole staff every day what's going on. who's traveling where, who's playing when, at what time, what location, to try to get the staff to come out and be a little bit more involved and start watching some of these games. I have to fill in for the coaches sometimes. I had to do a week of tennis coaching this spring. I just did a soccer practice for the boys the other day. I'll be doing that again later this week. Just sometimes we all have lives, we have conflicts, so I step in and help the coaches out. Make and distribute event passes. I did print June. I was thinking of you. I printed the AA tickets today,
passes?
and Jason too. Because you guys, big families, they're really good. So I've got those now. So just come see me. Work with all our vendors on the orders. You know, I like to try to spread it out, but I also have to work with people who will work with us on price, work with us on shipping. I found a great company that they'll often have the item shipped to them, then they'll bring them to us, so we don't have to pay shipping. That's very helpful. It saves us money, allows us also to order some more supplies for our kids. Coordinate with media, you know, no matter how we win or lose or how we do, there's always something good that can come of what we did. So coordinate with the media so they know when our events are, also contact with coaches so they can talk and get things out in the newspaper. I meet daily with John. I'm going into my 14th year now. I probably sit in his office 2 to 3 times a day and we discuss what's going on, the good, the bad, what we can work on. Manage and deconflict. Stuff always comes up. I got to take care of it. If I can't, I got to find a way to deconflict any issues. Now that we have the trainer, I will be supervising her. And this year we're doing the mentor program. So I'll be our mentor for this year. And then part of it too is add new clubs and sports. As I said before, if the kids want something, we will try to do it. We got the gaming club up and running. If kids want to come or adults in the building want a new club or a new sport, that's something I'll take on, the process that we can go through, and we try to add that sport or club. Other than that, I've been trying to find the best way to say this one sentence. But I told you what I do, but I deal with anything and everything that comes up so that the kids can have a good experience and just go play and enjoy themselves. This is a lot of what I do. Every day is different. I can't tell you what every single day looks like because tomorrow I might deal with something completely new. So I don't know. So I just talked for a long time, gave a lot of information. I assume there are probably some questions out there.
June?
I have several.
Yes.
Field hockey has been D1 for the last 4 years, 5 years or more.
Yes.
How come we can't play D1 schools until playoffs?
Okay. They often don't want to play us. I will reach out. So every 2 years when we make the schedule, we'll have a league commitment, which is so many games. Every sport has a different number. Then you have some crossover games, and then I can reach out to other states. I will reach out, and they often don't want to play.
Scared already, huh?
You know, I like to talk a little bit about this match, but I don't because this is now taking all watches. But yes, I mean, when you go undefeated and you score 100 goals in a year, and you're up north and you're undefeated or 1 loss, why do you want us to come up there and beat you? You don't. You want to have yours so you have a better record.
Right.
And I mean, you saw because you follow it. We had a very good year last year, and we were second in the division because we don't get to play those D1 schools as much. But it's something that the coach and I are working on. You know, we have another year till the next schedule comes out, and Bethany and I already started talking, and she's going to try pushing some coaches to try to convince their school to let us play them.
At least a scrimmage.
They are going to St. Johnsbury tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that'll help.
The second one is, I heard that there's a shortage of officials in the southern, certified officials in the southern part of the state for football. So we might have to change some games to Thursday nights, or do we know anything about that yet?
So yes, we've already had to make 2 changes. The U32 game at U32 was going to be a Friday night. We got moved to a Saturday afternoon game. And our week 2 versus Fairhaven, which was supposed to be Saturday, got moved to a Friday night. This year we will not be on any Thursdays, at least unless some officials drop out now. We have said, talking with Coach Lockery, we are willing to do that. We did request that if that does happen, you know, if you could try to make it like when we play at Brattleboro or Springfield, so our kids aren't, you know, I don't want to send our kids to North Country on a Thursday night.
Right.
It's just not fair to them. And then in other sports, field hockey, there can only be 3 games played on a day in the southern half of Vermont due to officials.
So they're still short on field hockey.
They're short. So anybody out there listening and watching again, if you want to become official, let me know. I can point you in the right way. Field hockey, you can make a lot of money being an official. There are a lot of games that need to be covered.
So I was told that so many kids were at football on Monday that we didn't have enough helmets for all of them, and we had to borrow some for Brattleboro, Are we getting some more? Are the ones that we got from Brattleboro, I mean, I'm assuming that every school has to send them out to get tested every year, and
Yeah. So pleasant surprise, we were expecting 35. We have 44 kids playing. We had enough helmets. We did not have the right sizes. So Springfield was gracious enough to get us some extra large helmets, and Brattleboro gave us some large helmets. They gave them to us for the year, so they'll be painted to color match the ones we have. And then at the reconditioning process, when they go back to reconditioning, they'll get stripped, re-put back together, and then sent back to the school that let us use them. So they're nice enough. It won't actually incur any cost for us to use those this year.
And do we have a boys soccer team this year?
Yes, we do.
Are there enough?
Yep, we just hired a new coach, Grant Patterson. We have 15 boys right now out for boys soccer.
One last thing, how much are the athletic passes this year?
45 for a family, 25 for an adult, I believe, and is it 20 for a student or senior citizen, I believe.
Okay,
So
thank you.
same as the last several. I know things have been a little different last year, but prices have not gone up.
Okay, I'm all set.
Jason,
Ian, thank you. I have 3 questions for you. Being such an athletic community, do we have an athletic plan, or like, what's your vision to improve our programs?
Well, my vision is the more support we can give them, which comes from me, from the school, from the community, the more support we can give them and make these positive experiences, the more kids that will come out. I think you can learn so much by playing these sports, and you've got to show the kids that. And that I think is the tough part. You've got to convince these kids to come out and do this so they can see what they're missing. And, you know, we must be doing something right. We are up this year. Our numbers have increased by about 10 to 15 kids this fall over last fall. Someone else brought that up to me actually this morning, what we might want to do. And we started talking about the possibility of, you see it in colleges that you get the sports teams, there's like a fair, right? You get members of the sports team to be out there, and kids can walk through and talk to people that do the sports and, you know, get an idea of what it's like. Just another way to pass information on it, try to get kids motivated and wanting to do our athletics.
My next question is that, so I listened to all the slides, and the one thing that I did not see on there, which has bugged me for a couple of years now, is what programs do we have in place, or do you have in place, to help the kids continue the athletic career in college? Media, photos, highlights, counseling, camps, etc. Because I can tell you from a parent's perspective of an individual who wanted to play at the next level, anything that went to the colleges was from his parents and nothing from the school. No stats, no nothing, no video clips. We had the huddle in basketball, which you provided, thank you. But we had to put that all together. There was no, like when you go to like other schools, Vermont's already looked down on athletically compared to like New Hampshire, New York. I mean, we're just looked at, oh, it's just Vermont. So we really need to, you know, I wish, what I'd like to see you do, I know you're busy, but I think kids that want to pursue this at the next level, we have to market the players to help them, because it's just non-existent. So, you know, I would like you to consider doing it. I think, you know, field hockey, soccer, whatever. You know, it's just, this school is known for athletics. We have 63 state championship banners. And you just said that part of their growth is their learning. And that's how kids learn, by coming out and playing sports. So I wish that happened for personal reasons, but I think going forward, you know, for personal reasons, you can help somebody else that wants to pursue this at the next level. And it just hasn't. So I don't know what, if you're too busy with clerical work and
So,
you need to work on that stuff.
so part of it is, you're gonna have the most video of your kid playing your sport, or anyone, I mean, you know, I don't have the video. We have looked into doing videos out at all the fields, but that requires Wi-Fi, requires a lot of money. So right now, when I get inquiries in the mail and through email about kids or anyone who might be interested, I funnel those through the coaches, or if it comes with a kid's name specifically, I get that out to the kid. But, you know, let me know what other schools, I'll reach out to them that do this type of stuff, find out how they do it, because unless I have film of the kids, it would be hard for me to market and put together stuff of our kids to send it out.
I just think it really just takes it. An individual, could be a coach, could be anybody, that really wants to see those kids excel at the next level. You know, and I don't know where the glitch is. You know, I'd like to help in any way I can, but my last question is,
So I'm trying to help, let's get Wi-Fi out up top and out back, and we can get cameras similar to Huddle, and we can start live streaming games. So if a coach is interested, they can watch the game live. If not, you know, for basketball, how we've been recording, you know, we can start recording all the games and we can send them out. So if we had the Wi-Fi at the field, it's something we could definitely do more of.
because I know specifically 2 kids that played football last year that weren't highly recruited. Coaches have contacted the parents and have said, why haven't we seen this kid? You know what I mean? Like, there must be an issue because we've never seen this kid, or we've never heard about this kid. You know what I mean? So they're like, was he in trouble with the law? You know, stuff like that. Those are the questions that I know that a couple parents are getting asked. It's weird dynamic. And my last thing is, can you explain to the board what your stance is as far as varsity playing time, and then parents, you said you deal with emails, I'm sure that's part of it, who complain about that. What is your stance as far as varsity playing time, and how do you administer that?
So the first thing is, if a parent comes to me and starts complaining about playing time, I say, have you talked to the coach? I do not tell the coaches who to play for, at what point, or for how long. We hire good quality people, and that's what we hire them for. You know, at the varsity level, my belief is that you're playing to win. If the game is winnable, that is towards the end of the game, you keep playing your best players and you're trying to win. If you're up by a lot, down by a lot, start getting the other kids in, because they do need to play. They need to get the experience, so when the older kids leave, they have some experience and they can come in and try to win the game. The JV level, I'm not gonna say split playing time, I'm gonna say meaningful playing time. A kid should be able to come home and say to their parent, you know, yep, I had a good game, I had fun, I got to play. Not, I only got in for 20 seconds right before the end of the game. Again, when I get emails on that aspect, again, playing time with the coaches, we'll have a discussion. Hey, you need to start getting some of these players in more. Let's find ways to do it. In baseball games, sometimes maybe get them in a little bit earlier, or basketball games, first couple minutes of every quarter, try to mix it up. So we try to come up with solutions that way, but playing time starts and comes from the coach. I don't dictate who plays when or for how long.
Thank you. Thanks for taking your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Priscilla?
Just a couple
Yeah.
things. I saw spring musical on there. Is that under drama club or do we not have drama club?
So the last couple years, so drama club is in the class, because there's that class going on, so they did like the murder mystery at the end of the year. So yeah, that stuff sort of happens. I don't know what's going on this year yet, with some shift in personnel in the building. That's a class. But no, sorry, I missed that. So yes, there is the drama class that did the murder mystery as well.
Okay.
And then hopefully we'll be back to a full-fledged spring musical and fall play this year. Knock on wood.
Thank you for that explanation. And just a plug for all the board here to get the football card. It's only $20 and it is well worth it. I use it regularly every year and just a great thing. It also helps a lot of our local businesses. That's one way they get people in and make money as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else got any questions for Ian? Good job. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Go Terriers.
See you all at the next game. September 2nd, field hockey versus Springfield, and then football versus Brattleboro. Friday, full day of action.
Okay, we are almost lost track where we are. I think we are at superintendent's update.
So I sent out my update, and given the time, if it's okay, I'd like to just kind of address a couple of questions that came up. One, we were asked about shipping charges from Amazon on a specific warrant. I went and checked. That actually was just how e-finance spit it out. We did not, I think that it was a $287 or something like that on shipping. It was shipping and the actual supplies, so it wasn't that, but the way e-finance is, it cut off whatever the item was and it just showed shipping. So we didn't pay just $287 on shipping. And then I did finally get back from legal counsel, and so I want to read specifically on warrant signers. Let me just pull that up here. So the legal set is under the statute, which is 16 VSA 563, the board can vote and authorize any employee or member to sign for the district, and the minutes of the authorizing vote are sufficient.
Well, that doesn't answer our question.
Well, it did, because that was a directive for what, the direct question was.
How many?
That, can you assign multiple warrants, or do they have to vote someone in, if the person's out? And the answer is that you guys can authorize everyone to sign.
Okay.
That's the way we used to do it.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you. Is that all you got, Andy?
That is it, unless people have questions on my,
Jason?
Go ahead, Jim.
No, no, no.
I just wanted to state again that I'm actually having fun signing the warrants, and I promised to be there. Had a nice conversation with Jim last week, and I think we're like-minded. I don't know if that's bad, Jim. But I think we have a belief that we're going to try to save every dollar we can to put it back into the school system. I think it's important that we look those over, because I wasn't going to sign last week because I saw the audit didn't like everything. I don't know, has anybody not signed warrants before? So everything has a backup to it, but the only thing that didn't have a backup was there was an audit done for the tune of $11,000. And I wasn't gonna sign the warrants because I didn't see a backup, like a timesheet punch in, punch out. So I didn't feel comfortable signing it, and the explanation was they're working from home, or they already did the work here, and then they're doing stuff at home, and my belief is working from home is not really working. If I'm gonna sign for $11,000, I want them to be in the building looking at files or whatever they do, but I felt comfortable with Jim's explanation, so I did sign it.
Anyone else? June?
I just have a question about the ESSER bonuses. Have they gone out, and were those for all employees, the bus drivers, the kitchen staff, janitors, etc.?
The ESSER bonuses went out on August 12th, and it was for all employees who are currently employed in the SU except for myself. So everyone received a portion of the bonus based on their prorate of when they started and what they actually work. So if they're a full FTE, they would get the full amount. If they're a 0.6 FTE, then they get the 0.6. But if they started in February, then you have to prorate that back. So, and then everybody has different taxes, and this is why it took so long. This is half of why it took so long. And then everyone has different tax brackets and different tax pieces and stuff like that. So some people, theirs are different than others, so.
Okay, perfect. I was just, I had heard that there was one group that might not have be included in that, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was included, because that's the way I understood it when you brought it to us.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And new employees go out?
Whenever it's scheduled, I off the top of my head, I don't know when it is, so.
September.
We're working on retro pay for support staff at this time.
David, you're next.
I think Andy just answered my question. I was wondering if support staff contracts are out.
Yeah, there are out, and I think Jason is working on that. I mean, it's a big lift. Yeah, no, but Jason Bishop, who is our payroll person, who has to create the file. I know, I know you thought, I was looking at Jim to make sure I apologize. So, but that, I believe he's, he's close, and then when he knows like a target date, he'll tell me, and then we'll put something out to our support staff. So.
Jason.
Sorry, Ma, I should ask this earlier. When the bonuses and the what you just said, is any of that considered like late as far as like when we decided to do like the bonuses were paid 8/12? Can you refresh my memory when we decided we were gonna do that?
February. And because of complexities with the fact that it was a grant and not being fully staffed in the business office, and just as I talked about of trying to figure out where everybody was on different pay schemes, it got delayed, and then we had the teacher's contract that went through, and so we had to focus on that retro pay for the teacher's contract. And then as we began to start working again on the bonuses, we then had the balloon payments and end of the year for all regular staff. So that was another big lift. So it just.
But the ESSER bonuses are going out in we had agreed on two payments, right? Not just one lump. So they're going out again first of the
October.
year-ish?
No, they'll go out in October.
And then November again.
And then new staff is September and February,
Oh, okay.
something like that. So. And the way the plan was worded was that staff had to be employed at the time of disbursement.
Thank you. Anybody else? We're all set, the superintendent?
Yeah, the 403B also got straightened out too, so, right? That was supposed to be August 1st, but that's gone out now.
Yes, I mean, it went out on Friday, yeah, so.
Jim, I think you're up. Finance update, donation procedures.
Hey, well, listen, I want to say that Andy was remarkable in putting this donation policy procedure together. I was so impressed with this that I sent Hartford a copy so they could use it as well. Because Andy and I mean, I just think this is perfect as far as following the donation, making sure it's tracked. Many times in receiving a donation, the biggest thing that gets lost is the person donating has some specifics of how they want it used. And sometimes that's not tracked. Sometimes it goes off course. So I think this really does a nice job. So I think this is better than what you had before. And I think it also,
We don't have that.
I don't think I have that.
I didn't share that with them.
Oh.
So for full, I sent it, this is how, we are moving so fast. I'd sent it to Jim and said, please read through this and let me know if there's anything, and we're so I can send that out to everybody right now.
Well, you put it on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on there.
sorry, I miscued.
No.
So essentially, for those donations that are over $1,000 or over, they have to start out with the superintendent approving it. And if somebody is trying to get some solicitations for donors, the superintendent has to approve it before people reach out to the donor. So I just think it tightens the system up, and it needs to happen like that. So I think this essentially, once the donation is secured, the business office certainly keeps track of it. And because of some of the GASB, which are the accounting requirements, we have to start bringing some of that in-house as well at some point in time, the student activities. So we'll be accounting for all of that piece.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question, since we haven't seen the actual document, I'm assuming that this is just sort of the financial end of tracking donations and not necessarily the administrative part of being in touch with the donor and saying thank you and that kind of stuff.
I mean, there's a little bit in there, because it gives some, the follow-up will come through the office. We based a lot of this on what Mrs. Breyer had given as a structure and looking at some other districts.
Let's get it out at the next agenda,
Yeah,
because,
so-
I mean, we're talking about something we haven't seen.
Well, it's also something the SU, it's really more of an SU procedure. I mean,
Okay.
so.
But the other boards have got to be aware of it.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah,
the Principals
so-
will come with a donation and I'll say, yeah, of course we want it. All right, so we gotta put that on next meeting. We've done the principal report. We have a policy D4. Priscilla, it's all you.
Okay, first, let me make a motion that we approve Title I comparability policy proposed as D4. This is basically, it was warned, obviously, it was approved by the WNESU last week. So the only change from our previous policy is adding the first sentence that you see on there.
So would you read that so the public knows what we're doing?
Sure. For all schools in the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union and its member districts eligible to receive Title I funds, the Wyndham Northeast School District shall ensure that the Title I funds are used to supplement local and state funding and not to supplant them. In other words, we're adding it as additional money, not in place of what's being done. And then the rest of the policy stays the same, which is the school district in which the school is located. So this is staffing levels, curriculum materials, and instructional supplies for Title I eligible and non-Title I eligible schools. The district shall use local and state funds to ensure equivalence among schools and staffing and the provision of curricular materials and instructional supplies. Students in all schools shall be eligible for comparable programs and supplemental supports. The district shall utilize district-wide salary schedules for professional and non-professional staff. The superintendent or their designee shall develop procedures for compliance with this policy and shall maintain records that are updated biannually, documenting the district's compliance with this policy. Any questions?
There's a motion on the floor to accept policy D4 as read. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, just where are we in the process here? We're warning the policy?
No, it's already been posted and it's already been approved.
It was warned on August 8th.
By this board.
It was warned for all boards on August 8th.
Oh boy, here we
Because
go.
it's posted.
Here we go.
And that's what we agreed to,
The
David.
WNESU cannot make policy incumbent on local boards. And to suggest that the WNESU has warned a policy on behalf of Bellows Falls Union High School Board, I believe actually contravenes statute. So I think that this is one where this board member will be much more comfortable with warning the policy, because we will be adopting a policy on behalf of this. We're up for tonight, right? Adoption. We will be adopting a policy that our constituents don't even know about because it has not appeared on this agenda. We are taking a very substantive action. No problem with policy, but I have a great deal of trouble with the notion that the WNESU is going to subsume this board's responsibility for policies. You know, in my judgment, absolutely an incorrect interpretation of the authority of the WNESU.
Yeah, I struggle with this, David, because I learned from you and other people that policies were done just as you have explained. And now they keep telling me that's not the case.
I'm going to just follow that up and say that it was agreed at a point in time that it would be far more efficient if the WNESU was the generator of policy. I'm going to give you a very good example. The WNESU, based on this interpretation, could create a graduation policy for this board. And I would submit to you that that would be an improper action on the part of the WNESU board to do so. And I really think that we have a responsibility to own the policy, have it presented for inspection by the public, if you will, whoever watches this stuff, and that the public then have the opportunity to comment to this board if it feels it's appropriate to do so. We are, being asked to take action here on an unwarned item, which I would submit, is simply not in a form in which this board can adopt it, because this board has never warned it.
So there was at the last policy meeting, there was a couple that were 100% high school policies, and I did take those two and say, wait a minute, that needs to go to the high school, because one of them was about graduation, and that's up to us to make whatever change wanted to be made, not someone else. So yeah, that's really all I know. I know that this one they told me was kind of a blanket thing, but I'm game for whatever you guys want to do.
Can I speak to that?
Just a minute. You're next.
You Robert's Rules people of order, can we legally adopt this policy since it wasn't on the agenda and warned on the agenda? And when we got to the meeting, we just got copies of it. I just want to know if we can legally do that with the open meeting law and Robert's Rules and yada yada.
Margot?
I hear both where Priscilla's come from in the past and where David's come from. And I think I'm somewhere in the middle of both of those. But, you know, like tonight, as June just pointed out, we've not seen this prior. And so it makes me uncomfortable to vote on something. It's short, we can read it, but not all policies are.
Right.
And so if we're thinking about all policies, I think it needs to be, comes to the board and then we vote on it. And warn it
So
for
the
next
argument,
meeting.
the argument always is that it's on the website, but I gotta tell you that that's, like,
It's
that doesn't work for me
Yeah.
a lot of
Well,
times
and
because.
there's no notice, like,
Right.
even
Which
if
I
ones
didn't
are
even
we
know to read it.
adopting? Yeah, which ones are we adopting when? It's,
And it's okay if the board wants to put it off, that's all right. It is a required policy. But we do have the basic policy. We're only updating it by one sentence at this point. It was on the website and posted clearly on, and we did approve it at the WNSU last week. And posting it is supposed to be able to take care of it in the new way of doing the policies. And I respect David's opinion highly because he has dealt with it in the way it used to be done, and it has changed. The way policies are done has changed
But that doesn't
tremendously.
mean we have to.
But I
do it that
agree
way.
with you. It did inadvertently get left off from tonight's because it was a short policy and because it had been posted. I felt that we could put it on there and adopt it, but of course, it's up to the board what they want to do. If they want to delay for another month, that's up to them. There were, like Molly said, 4 other policies that we did not approve to post because we wanted them referred to specific different groups to be able to look at that and then bring their opinions back to us so that we could actually look at them and then do them. And we did put those off. So it's, like I said, it's the pleasure of the board what they do. I did make the motion since I felt it was straightforward and not a very big change from what has already been there and has already been approved. So it's up to you.
I think we need to put it
Molly,
on the
David
next.
has a question.
Yes, David.
Okay. I'm going to say something that may be a little bit surprising here. Our great good friends at the Vermont School Boards Association at one of their trainings indicated to the chairs and superintendents who attended those trainings that in fact an agenda could be amended at the beginning of the meeting to include action items that were not warned for action on the agenda. It may be cricket under statute, but I think it is very poor public policy to take action on items that the public is not aware of. So yeah, technically, June, yeah, we could do it if we accepted that the policy is warned on behalf of this board. But then you have the question of whether it represents, good governance.
Margot?
Can I maybe make a recommendation that we consider, it used to be, right, that it was, the policy was brought to the board, then the next meeting was the first read, and then the next meeting was the adoption. Well, maybe we can condense that a little bit and at a meeting say, at the next meeting, we're discussing this policy, here it is. And then at the next meeting, we can have discussion and if appropriate, adoption.
it would be nice to be included in when Nicole sends out the agenda to have it
Right.
attached, so you can, that's what I
It
spend
should
my
have been.
Sundays on before a board meeting is going over this stuff.
And it should have been.
What is the board's pleasure? Do we want to ask Priscilla to renege on our motion and do this the next time?
If this board member's preference would be to warn it for adoption.
But posting it is technically warning it. David, that's what we've agreed to, and that's what we've been said we can do. So technically, we have done that, but I
This
am,
board
I am
has not, this
comfortable.
board has not
Well,
posted this policy. The WNESU board has apparently posted the policy.
no, can I finish? The
Right.
policy committee, which is made up of members of all the boards, posted it because it was ready to be posted, and they agreed by consensus that it was ready to be posted. The other four that we discussed at our last policy committee meeting were not posted because we do want more input from them, and they won't be posted till we get more input. But this one was posted.
I think perhaps some of our terminology we're using interchangeably, and maybe that's where it's causing confusion, because although it was posted, right, none of us ever saw it and didn't know it was posted.
And it wasn't on the agenda, so we didn't know to look for it, even if we
So
could have
I
found it.
think that might be the difference, is that we just, as a board and as a public, need to just know that it's coming up so that we have a chance to read it before we're asked to vote on it.
Yeah, so if it's on the, if it's on the agenda, then we'd know to look it up and.
Priscilla, what's your pleasure?
I am comfortable in waiting. I mean, we have one in our, we have a basic one already. And like I said, it's only changing that one sentence.
So you're gonna pull your
If
motion?
there are people that are uncomfortable, I am perfectly comfortable with waiting for them.
Okay, so you're
Yeah,
pulling your motion, we're
That's
done.
fine.
Okay, we've already done athletic director and trainer. Is there any resignations or appointments? Okay. Unfinished old business for discussion, response to claims of harassment. Mr. Broadley.
Okay, I believe that's over to me. So, in talking with Andy and Molly prior to the meeting, we're trying to ascertain exactly what is wanted. And my best attempt at it is, and I spent time thinking about it and typed it out. So after the discussion on diversity in the last few meetings and the request that the board had asked, what action administration is taking to report this situation? When asking questions of our counselors, what they do when they hear of these reports of harassment or bullying, they state that they are governed by confidentiality and cannot report these situations for investigation. They can share the details with administration and have said that they have done so in the past. None have been with me this year. That I do know. But as there is no perpetrator, there can be no formal investigation. The key point in letting administration know and this is from my experience and knowledge, but the key point in letting administration know of the topics that students don't feel comfortable reporting is that it can still be addressed by a school-wide approach in offering students educational opportunities. This brings us to where we are now, which again, I know I've shared my plan and probably secure in it moving forward, but plan for addressing diversity of students at the beginning of the school year, beginning on day one and reinforcing this throughout the year in monthly homeroom extended meetings. Have our new restorative practice person, Kelly O'Ryan, support homeroom advisory meetings. Use data to further drive approaches to educate students further, and then have a plan for any counselor to report issues as they arise to administration, to be aware of and address them through further educational opportunities for all students. That's my best stab at what I think people are asking for. Again, I am more interested in moving forward than backward. No.
Good. David?
Okay. For at least the third time, although I think it's actually the fourth, I quote directly from the minutes of April 11th, in which Andrea Carlson had quite a bit to say about harassment of minorities in this school, or at least alleged harassment of minorities in this school. Boil it down as simply as possible one more time. Andrea said, and this is a direct quote, "I have worked here for 20 years, and during that time it has been reported to me each year that racial incidents happen regularly at BFUHS." That is a statement which is in the minutes, or you can go back to the meeting tape and watch it for yourself. Okay, and after making 2 requests during the month of April for follow-up, in May, on the 17th, I requested an agenda item, steps taken to address allegations of inappropriate behavior towards minority members of the BFUHS community. And I'm going to read it one more time, just in case it went too quickly. Steps taken to address allegations. Steps taken to address allegations of inappropriate behavior toward minority members of the BFUHS community. And I will be blunt here. Administration has dodged this question for 4 months, and I have no doubt that administration will continue to attempt to dodge this question. That was a wonderful statement we just had. That statement should have been part of our information packet for tonight. And to bring it up at the table at 8:30 at night is a classic ambush. And I resent that kind of tactic on the part of administration. I am not pleased that administration seems to be continually unable or unwilling to address the very simple question of what steps have been taken. And the reason this matters is that this kind of behavior has been ongoing for 20 years in this school. It has been unacceptable for 20 years, and the fact that steps weren't taken to put a stop to it 20 years ago is, I don't want to use the term criminal because it may not be criminal, but it's extremely disappointing and reflects poorly upon this school. And I think that we need to understand it. Either these incidents that are alleged by Andrea Carlson have a basis in fact, and that steps have been taken to address them, or maybe they don't have a basis in fact, and that it is an unfair characterization of this school. I think we have a right to know which it is. Thank you, Molly.
Jason.
June had her hand up first.
June.
I guess this is a question for Andy and John. Aren't all counselors, well, all staff members for that purpose, aren't they all mandatory reporters?
So mandatory reporting is for harm and things of that nature, not if someone comes in and says to me, that guy over there called me a racial slur, that's not a mandated reporter. If that guy over there propositioned me, I'm a mandated reporter. If Ricky, I'm pointing to Ricky, so that I'm just picking on Ricky. So if Ricky comes over to me and says, you know, this person touched me, I'm a mandated reporter. If Ricky comes over and tells me that someone called him a racial slur, and I don't want you to report it, you don't. That doesn't fall under my understanding of mandated reporting. Is not it's not under that same umbrella. And oftentimes, I think I've explained to the board in my past as a building principal, oftentimes I've had information brought to me, but a student might say, I don't know who the kid was, or I don't want you to do anything because I don't want it to get any bigger. And you try and work around that in some way to try and respect that, because there are subtleties in doing that.
Yes, Brenda. I didn't even realize you were back there, you're so quiet.
On that subject of mandating reporting,
if that's true, then why do I have this that was on the agenda, WNSU, saying that we might be mandated in some ways in instruction for things that aren't even reported? And why are those things, we're making policies on things that, represent a broad. And to Andy's point, these things become more channeled for solution through a process. Because I can't just go over and say something to somebody, but in the world we live in now, you can do whatever you want and somebody else can do whatever, everybody changes the rules all the time.
Not me, I get put in a hot seat every time I do.
I would,
Front page of the newspaper.
I mean, I just want to clarify, we have a bullying and harassment policy that we follow, and that there is a procedure, and I've explained to this board that the procedure is when you are given information, you have to research it. And you have to go through and you have to research it. Many times, there is not substantial evidence to proceed further. So we follow that mandated policy. It's a policy all the boards adopt. It's in statute, so it's what we follow. So we don't just say, okay, we'll just handle it this way. You have to follow the policy.
Jason.
So I think freedom of speech is really important. And it works both ways. So freedom of speech is, you can get in trouble for freedom of speech if your employer accepts it or not accepts it. And Mr. Brother, I really think that you do a good job. And I know it's the last year of your contract, and I really believe that you should be offered another contract soon. Because there's a lot of issues out there with a lot of other schools. And I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard the term of quiet quitting before. So it's where you have one reason, a lot of different reasons. One reason might be you have a bad coworker working with you, and that person never gets held accountable to anything that goes on. And so your other workers who are pulling the rope, so to speak, and they get frustrated and they're like, well, if nothing's going to happen to that person, I'm going to do the bare minimum. I'm going to come in at 8. I'm going to leave at 3. I'm going to take my mandatory lunch. I'm going to give the bare minimum. And I really feel that as we go forward, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I really don't. As we go forward, we have to hold people in this building accountable and not be afraid of a teachers' union. They should be held accountable. If somebody's working under you, Mr. Bradley, I believe if it wasn't somebody that was in a union, that person would have been escorted out of the building for what they said to the board members and the administration. And what you just said is a classic case of, you said it happened before your tenure. However, you were the vice principal here under the past principal. And you also stated in a meeting a couple meetings ago that you didn't think anything was happening, or you didn't believe that. You've been here, you have a pulse of the building. You know. So I think it's really unfortunate that, yet again, somebody can say whatever they want and nothing happens. So just want to caution you going forward, there's people in this building who care and are probably frustrated that somebody can just say something and nothing happened to them. And we're looking for staff. And that's why staff leaves. So, thank you.
Well, may I just, we could not report on any consequences or discipline, nor would we, discuss any consequences or discipline of any employee. I think that's not just a union piece, but that is an employment law.
Good. That's good.
I just
Well,
want
you made a statement that I cannot confirm nor deny.
I appreciate your statement. Thank you.
to throw in sort of an alternate side to what Jason just presented. Because I think while some people may feel that, I think there are other people that feel kind of on the opposite side. And that if we don't allow staff in our building to be able to express ideas or comments to the board and to the public, we're also like I don't know how to put it, but we're causing an issue of staff suppression that's sort of authoritarian, and that is problematic also. So, I think there were people sort of on both sides of that particular incident, and felt differently about what went down or what didn't go down. And I just want to caution that, we also have to be careful about what we're not allowing staff to say. They should be able to come to a board or administration and express their thoughts, because they are parents in our community, they live in our community sometimes, plus they work in a school that we care about and we're trying to administer, well, not administer, that's not our role, but provide guidance for. So there's a balance somewhere in there, and we just have to be cognizant of both sides there.
Priscilla?
As a board, we are responsible for listening to students. We're responsible for listening to faculty and administration. We're also responsible for listening to community members. And every single person should be able to come to the board and be able to express what they want to say in an appropriate manner, hopefully. And we should be able to listen to them without being attacked at another time. So I think that's crucial that we keep that in mind. Because they need to say their things in an appropriate way and set an example, hopefully, for people that are watching them, as well as we are responsible for setting that kind of example too. Thanks.
I'd like to move on to new business and whatever subs is. What is that for?
I think that was email.
Jason?
So when I was going through the warrants, Molly, I noticed from March of this year to June, we paid close to $38,000 in substitutes. And so when I saw that number, I was flabbergasted, but then I tried to seek out more knowledge, and I don't really know, maybe somebody can help me. So if I'm a teacher, how many days are in a contract? Are you get the 10 federal holidays, or what else do you get? Like how many?
14 sick days and 4 personal.
So how many can?
Teachers
14
can
for-
roll up to
Yeah, they
75.
75. They can
75?
accrue up to 75.
75 total days? So what happens if they don't use those 75 days?
They lose them
They lose them.
Okay, so
when they get done.
But they can accrue them and hold on to them for their
for the life of how long they'll work here?
tenure, yeah.
So I have that's a lot of money, I hope. And what I think, so when the substitute is here and the teacher's not here, then you have somebody who's not maybe 100% engaged with the fundamentals of teaching. And so maybe test scores dip or engagement dips. So my thought was, is there a way we can say, okay, instead of losing your time, because we want the professionals in the building, right? Instead of losing your time, pay them yearly, like a couple weeks before Christmas, your 75 days or whatever time you earn. And I know you're gonna say collective bargaining, blah, blah, blah. However, I think we gotta look, we're struggling for staff. I hear it all the time. Don't have staff, don't have staff, don't have staff. Pay them. This way, every year they start out fresh. If we're doing something different than Springfield or Green Mountain, you're apt to get more people who want to work for you in this building. Or give them the option. Maybe they want to hold on to their 75 days until they retire. But I think it's really terrible. We've done a disservice to the teachers. I think you said February, we came out with something, we're gonna maybe finally pay them. It's going on in September. I know paras that have not gotten their contract yet, but yet they're scheduled to start work on Thursdays. Is that happening to teachers? We gotta treat people better. If you want people to work for you, you gotta do something different than the other person's doing and make them appreciate here. You know, do we do potluck lunches for teachers? That might be fun. How about a holiday Christmas party where it's just the adults, or a summer cookout for just the teachers and their families? Something that says, I really want to continue to work there and this is all the great stuff we have about this school, other than some of the other great stuff we have about this school. So I don't know if there's maybe we can look at it next month. If we make can we make an amendment? Can we just do that without, and I know you're gonna say, well, we can't go against the collective bargaining thing, or their contract, but we're giving them something. We might be giving them something. So I think that would be cool, instead of losing their time, because there might be people that are like, I'm sick, I'm not coming to work today, otherwise I'm gonna lose my time. Or are they in service days that they're being sent out, or they should, all that stuff be done on in-service days? You know, it just, there's a lot to it. And all of that.
I had an employee call in today and I asked my HR lady, is he had a day check, because I'm sick of him calling in on Mondays.
Yeah.
I get it.
Monday flu.
And
So blah, 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 because collective bargaining does rule it. You can't, but I fully support and would encourage the board and the association to discuss that. And I don't know if there's an MOU that can be done outside of it, but you've got a collective bargaining for all of your, for all your districts, so you can't just introduce one thing at one place.
What?
So the other thing is, I think you have to realize that last year was a COVID year, where at the beginning of the school year, we were told people had to quarantine for 10 days, then we went to 5 days, and we had various of that. As much as, we say it, lots of teachers and administrators and people who work, right, they want to keep their sick days, and especially if they're going to get paid out, they want to keep their sick days because they want to get paid out, and then they come in sick, and then they get more people sick, and then there's more loss of learning. So it's a delicate balance to handle there. But I think that there's merit in that, because I've worked in systems where we've gotten that piece. We also have personal days, that many staff believe that the 3 personal days they have are theirs and they are given them, and they, at the end of the school year, I have to use my personal days because they lose them. Personal days are designed for if an employee needs to conduct some business during school that they cannot do outside of school. So if they have to go to court, or if they have to go do something like when a facility is open, many staff go, well, I'm going to go shopping that day. And they take a personal day to go shopping. A lot of that happens right at the end of the year, because people save their personal days up to the end of the year. And it happens every year. I've seen it as an
I
administrator.
think you need to change the culture, and instead of calling them sick days, personal days, just call it personal time off.
So we could go
This way the
back to
people don't have to
collective
lie about
bargaining.
being
It's-
sick.
It's collective bargaining.
I know, but
So there's nothing we do. The other thing is I fully support if this board wants to come and run a potluck for the staff and wants to host that, if they want to host some type of, winter festival party or something of that nature, because John does that with his staff. It's already done. I've come around and walked in the building, in this building, and handed out donuts and apple cider and done all those things. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's one thing to say it here, but we've invited board members to come in during the school day. We've invited board members to be a part of the academic day. And so we welcome that at any time.
so here's the disconnect, Andy. The teachers don't work for us. They work for you, and they work for John. There's actually a disconnect. The teachers don't like the board members. You know what I mean? They really
Which would
don't.
be great for you guys to run a potluck or
No,
something
no.
like that.
It needs to come from administration, because they work, if they quit, they're quitting on you guys, not the board. You know what I mean? They,
So Jason, I'll respectfully disagree, because the conversations I've had with many staff is often the rhetoric that happens at board meetings is the stuff that sours them.
I'm
And-
saying pay them.
I'm sorry?
I'm saying pay them.
But I'm just saying the rhetoric that happens at board members at board meetings is often what staff reference as what actually bothers them. And so I believe that if board members were showing that they had an interest in staff by being there to support them, it would be fantastic. I mean, Harley has staff that have been shoving food into bags and handing out meals to families for the last 9 weeks. We've never had a board member come down and help out. We've been paying people to do that.
Really?
He's put out 135,000 meals to families this summer.
It's an amazing program.
I mean, so there are things that go on all the time that we welcome board members to be in. I disagree that when you say that staff they don't work for the board. Ultimately, you hire and fire staff, and you give that, you do delegate that to me, but you guys are the ones who hire the staff. So they work for the board.
Well, I respectfully disagree in the firing part, because it's April 15th, we're given a list on like April 12th, so we don't really have the time to look at it and cut it. And also, you guys work here. We're talking about being shorthanded all the time. Molly, let me ask you a question. Every morning when you open up, it's busy from 7 to 9, 6:30 to 9, right? Are you in your office? Are you out on a register helping people? Guy comes with a 2x4 with a list of stuff he needs.
Probably on a forklift.
You're probably out in the field working, right? So you're not in an office between 8 and 3. You're out on the floor, right? You're taking care of customers, right? Our students are our customers. So Andy, I'm gonna suggest, when you guys are shorthanded, meetings, everything else, computer work, that can wait. You should be in the schools, in the classrooms, teaching our students.
Don't disagree.
I don't know if that happens. I don't know. So all of that, and again, we're talking about substitutes. It's $40,000. It's a lot of money. I would like to see, and also the people that are teaching the kids are 18 and 19-year-olds that the juniors and seniors are partying with on Saturday nights and Friday nights. There's not a lot of teaching going on. I'm just saying, that's the reality of it. We got to do a better job. That's all.
The other thing I'd just like to correct is that all of our support staff have received contracts. They haven't received an updated contract with the new collective bargaining that was just ratified last week. So they haven't received the updated pay salary, but they did receive contracts for the beginning of this school year. All of the teachers have received their contracts.
I would just like to treat people better.
And I would like to get things out a lot sooner too.
Priscilla?
I was just gonna comment that, and the policy, the procedure is stopped, or whatever you want to call it. But it used to be that at the beginning of the school year, the school board staff, and we had a picnic out at the rec center in Saxon's River. Also, the school board used to go to the inn in Grafton and meet with new faculty and new members in September, about the third week in September. So maybe we ought to think about putting some of those kinds of things back in, so there is more connect. Now that part of it, our problem was COVID. We couldn't go in the schools the last couple of years. And so maybe now with this lessening, we can get in more and see more what's going on and maybe connect a little more.
Go ahead.
So the one thing I was gonna add is, Paul Mountain actually did something similar to that with the sick days. And 1 year, a lot of teachers all left in the same year, and the school board all of a sudden was like, we don't have the money to pay out all these sick days. So we can talk about it more, but I'm just like, as we think about it, just because I wouldn't want that to happen where all of a sudden you're like, and we have 10 people leaving, they all have 75 sick days, and that's, if you're paying at a sub rate $90,000, you're paying them on how much they make per diem, you're paying out $250,000. So just throwing that out there, just because I was like, I like the idea, but then it's like, oh no, that's a lot of money. But I do want to add to Jason that I have a massage therapist who's going to be coming in once a month and giving staff a 15-minute head and neck massage for $22. So I'm working on finding some ideas to make us a little different and keep people showing that we appreciate them and stuff. But any
Yes,
ideas
you
you
are.
have, I'm trying, yes. So any ideas you have, like, I'm happy to help and work with any of you to get that going, because I agree, there's a staff shortage everywhere. And I think we're lucky that we're more staff than a lot of schools I know. So I think we're lucky, and I would like it to stay that way. So thank you, Jason, for bringing it up.
June.
Molly, I'm not sure if this seems like a good place to put it in. You can let me know if it's not. I'd like to start the conversation that if a teacher or a para support staff, yada, yada, wants to come to our district and from elsewhere, and if they want to and they have children, I think as a incentive, maybe, we should try to do everything we can to make it so that their children can come to this district. I think it would be more of an incentive. It's something different. It's something that I've just been a board member since March, and a lot of people have said, you know, I'd go work there, but I live here and my kids' schedules, vacations, whatever are different than here. The start time's different here than it is here. And I think that I just wanted to make that something that we need to start talking about, that it might be an incentive to get somebody to work here. If you say, hey, you know, I have a third grader, I'll work for your district if they can come to our school.
Molly, wait.
Yes, sir.
I'm only going to entertain this because I can hear Mr. Kibbe already. So.
I listened to that board meeting. I can hear it too.
So
That's
that's the point, is that this SU had an opportunity to become a school district, which would allow that free flowing of folks. What you just suggested right there, from a high school perspective, would be if we brought on a teacher at the high school, what school would they go to? You have no control over any other school because you're just the high school. So that would mean that Rockingham would have to adopt that policy, Westminster, but if Rockingham chose not to adopt it in Westminster, then that means all the kids go to Westminster. So then you have to think about those kids that come into the district that maybe are out of district. Do they have an IEP, 504, title needs, all those things that you're now absorbing because you're not taking any tuition from somewhere else. So it's very complex. The easiest way to solve it would be to become a school district, which I know is not a very popular
I wasn't
thing,
necessarily thinking that they were coming from Grafton and wanted to work in Westminster or
Well,
Westminster. I mean, if they were coming from Keene or.
I understand that. So if they come and they have a need for title services, and they have a need for special education services or 504 services, how do you weigh out the student who comes in who maybe needs a high level of special education services at over, $20,000 or $30,000, who absorbs that? Or if a student comes in and needs title services, do I say, well, because you need title services, I'm going to take you, and then the next student who happens to be a member of your community in your school district, well, you can't because we're full because we took kids that are from out of district. So then we get into a maintenance of effort, we get into this policy. So I actually fully support it. It's just something I think needs to be very well vetted out, because it could potentially be a huge liability and a huge cost to our SU.
That's why I just wanted to start the conversation, because I know that we don't negotiate for another year or two. I just wanted to start talking about it, but I think that would bring, that's another incentive for staff.
Don't we have, sorry.
We've let we've made him stay here so long, we gotta move on to this tax rate thing so we can let him get out of
High
here.
school has school choice.
Jason, Terry?
So, at last month's meeting, Jim, had a really nice spreadsheet, and Jim's doing a great job. Thank you, Jim. And he had mentioned that 61% of the taxes that come in are from Rockingham. And it was suggested that I go to the lister's office, which I did, and I emailed everybody here what that was. So out of that 61%, 40% is paid by single-family homeowners in Rockingham. And I'm not gonna spare you all the details, but basically, Rockingham residents or single-family homeowners pay a huge amount of taxes for this school of what is coming in. And as we continue to add more things and add more things, those people who live in Rockingham, myself, broadly, a bunch of people here, it's going to be a huge burden for us. So we really have to be careful what we're spending. And it went, you guys all have this memo. It went through what the homestead tax would be, what the common level of appraisal is. And so, again, Jim, if you want to add anything to it, feel free, but it's going to be a problem as we go forward.
Go ahead, Jim.
I just want to say, with the high school, it's prorated based on the equalized students. And I think it's kind of unique, but it's very clear that as you break that out on a ratio, that the district who is has those kids attending is paying into their property tax system, that percentage. And it's integrated in each entity's taxes, property taxes. But it's very clear, and it's something that the state certainly integrates.
So my understanding with equalized student is that Jason doesn't pay any more as part of his taxes for the high school than I do out of my property tax.
That's right.
Correct?
Correct.
So he's not paying any more than I'm paying. We're paying the same rate.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So Rockingham has more people in it, so they have more students here, but that doesn't mean that they're paying any more. Their tax rate isn't higher per person, per property than mine is in Westminster.
No, it's an equalized.
Yeah, I thought I understood. I just had to have you tell me I understood.
But the usage, if you're in an apartment compared to a single family home, the usage tax is different. So we are technically paying more than an apartment that has 12 apartments in it. And that whoever owns that apartment is not paying the same taxes that I am.
Well, I understand all that, but that's nothing to do with, that's not saying that you're paying more taxes than we are in Westminster.
No, not at all. I'm saying for Rockingham residents, we're paying more.
Because you have
based
more
on
kids,
usage.
because you have more apartments.
Or that's
And
the issue.
You can have them.
And that's a village, or select board, or trustees, or
It's actually-
whatever issue.
It's actually a state problem. It goes above that. It's a problem, that's all.
Okay. Yes.
Well, are we done with that?
Are we done with the tax rate?
Yeah.
Well, that's it, hon. After tax rate, we're going on.
No, I have one more thing for new business, please.
Okay, June.
No,
You had to add it back.
you had to add it at the beginning.
All right.
You got director's comments coming up.
Okay, all right.
All right, director's comments. Let's go to Pamela. She's still with us?
She left us a while ago.
Deb Wright,
That's why I
she's
was
still there?
counting, I was counting, you were still at 7, so you were still
Deb
good. but I
gone
was-
too? Brenda, director's comments.
Yeah, I was worried.
I'm just gonna do a quick one, but I'm gonna be a little
Yeah.
snarky. Okay, so the people that on the board represent different things, like there's business, there's finance, there's buildings and grounds, there's parents, there's administration, there's people with nurse or teacher background, academics, there's athletics, there's counseling. I just want to say that I thought it was interesting that Sunday school is coming to church because I really think I represent clergy, and you talk about inclusion and equity, and we're kind of marginalized in the school system. But I just want to say we're available, and I don't know how that works. Like, I appreciate being on the board. I don't know how that works because there's so many rules now. That's why I brought up the rules thing. I don't know how that works. But I feel marginalized. But I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be a part of the community. And you know, we are working together.
Thank you.
Thank you for having Sunday school at home.
June.
Okay, so 4 weeks ago, I started seeing all these teacher Amazon wish lists, and I'd never seen them before. And then my family's pretty good friends with a new teacher in Westminster, and my son is making bookcases and cubbies for her because there are none in Westminster School. And so that was bothering me because she's a brand new teacher and we are having a nationwide shortage of teachers. And I know teachers that have been teaching for 30 some odd years, and they buy their classroom, they buy each kid a backpack full of pencils and books and school supplies and everything. And so back to the furniture thing, I was told when I brought this up, I called the school today and was told that Westminster does not have any extra furniture because they don't have any place to store it. So I was told that the district has furniture, so I was wondering if maybe we could have Jim maybe take an inventory of all the extra furniture that the district has and let the principals and the superintendent know, so that if this ever, I mean, teachers shouldn't be buying their own furniture for their classrooms. And so I was wondering if maybe we could put Jim on that to do a district-wide inventory and then let principals know of each school in our district. The other thing is that I'd like to thank and wish all the teachers and faculty and staff a safe and happy and productive school year. And thank you to the returning and welcoming all of the new faculty. That's all.
I'm all set, thank you.
Oh, wow. It's been a long night tonight. I'll keep this short. I do think that every member of our board is willing to take the time, as we've shown tonight, the long board meeting, and listen to board members, but also listen to students and listen to our community. And I think we welcome them coming to it. I think Molly does a really good job of welcoming them and having them come. I do appreciate the appropriate comments that when they come, and I think we need to be careful of everybody's feelings at all times. So just remember to be kind and share that kindness. Thanks.
David?
Well, actually, two things. I think part of what Scott, Jason, Terry wound up is there are two tax rates in Vermont. There's what's known as a homestead tax rate, and everything else is the commercial tax rate. And that's your store, your factory, your boogie joint, your apartment building. And it's a funny thing, but I believe that the commercial tax rate in Rockingham is actually lower than the homestead tax rate. And that's a phenomenon which occurs, I think, actually in the majority of towns in Windham County. It's a problem with the statewide property tax. It's a pretty good example right here of how the methodology penalizes the homeowner versus the guy who owns, or woman who owns a triple decker. That's one item. The other thing is I will point out that after the last meeting, when there was a request out for agenda items, I had requested that we get an update on Haver. And my curiosity was, what's happened? When was the last meeting? Are there minutes? And I think most importantly, we're the stakeholders. And I say this because when the directive went out from Andy as the superintendent of schools, our principal was instructed to make sure that he had a balanced group of stakeholders that was not weighted in one direction or the other. And it's been, I believe, at least 3 months since we've heard anything whatsoever about what's going on with Haver. I think it's time that this board had an update. So I'm hopeful that when this board meets again, we can find out what's going on in Haver, when it meets, and who the members of that committee are.
All set?
All set. Thank you.
Jason?
David, thank you for bringing that up. I wasn't going to push the issue anymore on the tax rate, only because it's getting late and it wouldn't have made a difference in this meeting. But at some point, the voters in Rockingham are going to say no for taxes going up, especially at the school. And right now, they are currently saying yes. And the last thing is that, you know, I hear about shortages all the time. No different any other job. Going forward, it's okay to hold people accountable, expect great results, and also on the back end, reward them for their performance with the little things. And people are important, and don't forget that. Thank you.
So it's late. I told my husband I'd be home at 10 tonight, so I got a few minutes, guys.
Go for it.
There was a comment made tonight, and I tried pretty hard to be like water off a duck and not let things go at me a little bit, but, there was a comment made tonight that, the teachers don't like the board members. And, so I know that some things have happened, some, people have done things that have maybe, tainted somebody's opinion, but I think as, I've been on these boards for a long time, and I'm sure that I've upset one or two, because who doesn't if you're human, but I think I've got a decent relationship with most of the people in this building. And I think that's important. I think that's important to, what are we doing if we, if they don't feel comfortable with you? I mean, we're here trying to build their budgets and make sure the policies are protecting them and the students. And so I just had to throw that out there. I'm pretty sure, or I hope that the staff, most of them at least, support what we're trying to do here. There's been several comments, several times, probably since last April, about putting things on the agenda. We have changed the way we're doing the agenda a little bit. John and Andy and I are meeting the Tuesday before the next meeting. And sometimes it's hard, just because somebody wants something on the agenda, sometimes it just doesn't fit that time. Sometimes we've talked about it too many times, and I think sometimes because maybe you're not getting the answer that you want to hear, we keep putting it back on the agenda. So the agenda has become this, an item that sometimes, or a lot of times, people are, how come this isn't on there? How come that doesn't get on there? We've had a full night tonight, and we didn't put everything on the agenda that everybody has to put on the agenda, because we just can't sometimes. Andy's got a long way home, and we're just, and nobody's complaining. He hasn't put his red flag up and said, I'm out of here, but, I think we need to go back to 2 meetings a month, if that's what we need to do, to try to shorten these up and to try to help people get, some of the information they're looking for. But it is a tough juggle, and I talked to a couple other board chairs, because I said, that sometimes it just doesn't fit. And so the real answer is, you can challenge the agenda when you start a meeting, if that's what you want to do, and vote to add something. But we can't add something that is going to make any changes. You can't vote on money if it wasn't on the agenda, but those aren't the things that people want on the agenda. So just keep that in mind. It's been a good night. We've been here for 4 hours, but we've got some things done. So thank you very much. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I'll make motion to adjourn.
Thank you.